Hey everyone, so today we are going to paint this beautiful scene that you see on your screen. It's a kind of a rain situation going on. So I have my palette here, and from left to right I'm going to tell you my paint colors. So this here is raw umber. This is what I used actually to stain my canvas for the underpainting. This one is, what is this one? Payne's Gray, which is actually like a dark blue. This is cerulean blue, cadmium yellow pale, olive green, titanium white, cadmium orange, and something I don't remember. Ivory black, that's what this one is. So keep in mind as we go through this tutorial that I am not professionally trained. I am completely self-taught, but I think that's the reason that so many people, especially other beginners, love to take my classes, because I teach in really simple terms. But I also teach differently than any other teachers out there, and every single teacher will also teach differently from everyone else. So if you have 100 different teachers, they're going to teach you 100 different ways to do something. This is just the way I personally have learned from watching YouTube videos or things like that. In the past 3 years I've been painting. So just keep that in mind. If you watch someone else or you learn from someone else or you have learned in the past, they teach differently than I do, and no way is deemed right or wrong. Also, when we paint today, the image that you see is just a reference image, and make sure that you make note of that in your mind, because if you hold yourself to the standard that you are going to paint that exact image or else you're a failure, then you're already failing. You have to keep in mind that you are trying to create something beautiful, not something perfect. So we are just going for relaxing time, making something beautiful, and really enjoying this process and letting go of the perfectionism. You have to let that go. That's the only way to succeed in art, is letting go of all of the standards that you hold yourself to. There is no right or wrong way to make art, and you just need to remember that as you move forward through this. So now that I've said that piece, we are going to move on to actually painting. Also, I want to preface this by saying I cannot draw to save my life. If you cannot draw, you are in luck, because we are not drawing really detailed things today. So I'm actually just going to sketch in my tree line, and you'll notice that it kind of comes from the left side. I always like to make a point, so I'll just make a reference point here where that tree line kind of starts, and then it kind of ends like over here. And then I'm going to draw a bumpy line, and that will be my trees. Super easy, just bumpy, and I'm kind of de-escalating downward to this other line. So this is my first tree line. Next I'm going to do my second one. I'm just going to draw a very thin, bumpy little line back there. Not too bumpy, because these are so far away we can't differentiate with our eye exactly how detailed these are compared to these up close. So anything up close is always going to be bumpier, and it's actually going to be more intense in color. As objects move away from us, they get more dulled down. So this back tree line is actually going to be far more dull than these two up front. So from there, angle this a little bit. We have a bunch of grass, and there's some yellow flowers and things like that. To keep this simple, I'm not going to do in the yellow flowers. I'm just going to do the grass and the shadows. So I'm just going to kind of sketch in with my pencil a mental note of where to put shadows. And there's no rhyme or reason to this. It doesn't even have to match that image exactly. I'm just kind of sketching in some nonsense there, scribbling in some dark areas here. That's grass, if you can't tell. So now we have this beautiful drawing. It's so nice. Typically, without teaching a lesson, I don't normally draw in with pencil. I actually do it with paint, and I kind of fill in everything. But for this lesson, pencil is the easiest to do by far, especially for beginners. And we're going to paint over all of this. So if you made a mistake, don't worry about it. Just try and remember exactly where you made that mistake. That way you know to paint or not paint or whatever you need to do in that area. I'm going to take this color, which is Payne's Gray. It's actually a dark blue. And just move it kind of anywhere down on my palette. Then I'm going to take some titanium white and mix that up and kind of see what we get. We're going for like just a dark blue here. My painting will probably be moodier and darker than the image, but remember, we're just using the image as a reference. We're not actually using it as a full-blown like copy this exactly. Art is not about just copying a photo in the first place. Art is about making something beautiful that you're proud of. So if my painting doesn't look exactly like the image, it definitely won't. That's fine. And yours won't either. So I'm gonna kind of copy my image and just put this wherever I see the darkest area of these clouds. So it kind of comes up through here. I kind of like to paint around the bend of the canvas as well. And I'm putting this on decently thin, but also not so thin that you see the canvas through it. Don't want any of that canvas color showing through, unless that's your jam, and then you do what you want. You do you, boo. So again, just kind of scrubbing this in with my filbert brush. Doesn't really matter what size your filbert brush is. I never look at the sizes of my brush. It's not the size of the brush that matters. It's the brush itself. The heart of the brush. Make sure it has a good heart. Is that weird to say on camera? All right, so I already have darks on this brush, so I'm not going to use that brush for what I'm going to do next. I'm probably just going to pick up this little kind of nondescript little flat brush, and I'm going to use the same kind of color, this mid-tone blue-gray that we used earlier. And we're going to see what this does. We're just going to put this kind of, like we did our clouds, we're just going to scrub this in. Kind of going out this way. So sometimes when I do this, I kind of, this is why I say this brush is, my brush is like super frayed out, because this is how I treat my brushes. I just scrub them. I like this brush for this because you can scrub and create like kind of organic lines and organic shapes. So this stage of this painting is called blocking in. We are just trying to get colors and general colors and general shapes correct, or as correct as we can in one shot, and then we go back and correct. Scrubbing up right underneath those clouds. But like, see how this is a line, and it's a very, I don't like that at all, so I'm just gonna scrub away some of that. And of course it's gonna show up in this paint, but that's okay. Now I have like some of this little bit of, I don't know what it's called, whenever the clouds kind of dip down, you can see the little wispy edges and stuff. So now I have that kind of in there. Again, try and keep this clean edge down at the bottom. So if you need to, you can actually pick up your angle liner again, wipe it off, pick up this green color, and then line the bottom, just so you remember kind of where to stop. Because these trees are far away, they don't have like branches and foliage that kind of spills over and covers some of the grass, so we want these lines to be decently crisp as well. In real life and in that photo, it is multiple shades of green. So I'm just going in and putting this on pretty thick, and I'm just doing it randomly. So I just scooped up one shade of that green, doesn't matter which one, and you put it in randomly. Random, random, random. Super random, random. And you just keep doing this until you've got most of the canvas covered where you need it, but then you still leave room for the other shade of green that we're going to put in next. All right, as you can see, we have this nice like multi-dimensional green field going on. I think I'm going to add a little bit of brightness through there. See, my darks are still there, but they're covered up a little bit. It just adds like some dimension of realism kind of going on. All right, I'm going to see if there's anything else we want to do today, or if we want to just let this dry and then come back to it. no, I think that's it. I think that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let it dry for a few days, probably 3 or 4 days, and then I'll come back to this and I'll make another video on how I really define these clouds, add some like wispiness and layers and puffiness. That is where letting this dry, that's how you do that. That's how we get those multi-dimensional clouds. Hi everyone, welcome back to part 2 of glazing and finishing up this storm scene that we started last week. So this is completely touch dry, and this is my favorite part of any sort of oil painting because I never paint a full painting in one sitting. I always do my block in layer, let this dry, and then I go back and I do color correction, basically anything that I want to add more detail to. I'm not crazy about these clouds and how they're kind of shaped right now. They're very blocky, so I want to go back and add just like really whimsical layers of clouds and wispiness kind of going on. I want to edit the grass a little bit. I'm going to brighten up this little bright spot here and just really hone in on this rain band that's going on. Squish off everything that's on my knife and just pick up some liquid. Ooh, need some muscles to open that once you've had it a while. Obviously I've had this bottle a while. It like sticks closed. I'm just gonna squeeze out some. I don't have a measurement for how much. We're gonna play it by eyesight and just put some there. And then we'll kind of have to see how much we need to mix in. So I'm going to scrape up some of this, move it down here, and then let's go ahead and mix a little of that liquid in there as well. Pretty. Okay. And with painting, you have to remember it's never just one thing. You can't just put one color down and be like, okay, that's better. You have to layer in all these different colors and give it more than just a few tries. You have to really just kind of lay down layers. In other words, you can't just put down one stroke of paint in one area and be like, I hate that. You have to like give it a solid effort. So I want to just kind of darken this through this little area right up to this little lip. And you'll notice when I do this, I'm just kind of like scribbling this paint mixture on. I always paint clouds like this, just really kind of sporadically. I'll blend with my fingers sometimes. Along the edges of these clouds, just to kind of drag them out and soften them up. And liquid's really nice because then you can wipe off your brush and go back and blend them out in certain areas, leave them harsher in certain areas. Like this is a pretty harsh little doodad. Adding some more of these. And you can turn the brush sideways too, and if you just kind of do like the slow motion. Like same with these. See how these are just very harsh little fellas. I'm gonna go back with a lighter color and just kind of soften those up as well. It's a very straight, narrow, like strict line, and I don't like clouds with strict lines. So I'm just going through and kind of, I don't like this. This is like a straight, strict line right there. So we don't soften him up. We'll soften him up real nice like. And I'm touching up just a tiny bit of dark underneath this where it got a little bit lost. Add some dimension there in this furthest away cloud. Run it through my liquid first and pick up just a little bit of this color. Test it. Alright, I'll try a little bit of this, but it might actually still be a little too, not quite enough liquid. We're gonna see. We're gonna see what's gonna happen here. Actually, I don't think I put quite enough of this kind of weird, whatever color this is. I don't even know what color that you would call that. Scoop up some more liquid. Let's try this again. I'm gonna wipe that back a little bit. I don't know for sure that that was the right call, but we're gonna keep adding to it. Oh, okay. Well, I'm just throwing stuff apparently. Let's add a little bit of that. So again, this is just Payne's Gray and liquid and a little raw umber. Ooh, yeah, give me that dark stuff. That's good. Okay, I go right under those trees, and I'm kind of dragging that same shadow just kind of sporadically into that tree line as well, because these trees would be much darker. We gonna add some yellow. This is just cadmium yellow. And this might get crazy bright, but that's okay. We're just gonna see how this tints this. All right, let's try that. See what happens with this. Oh, that is yellow for sure. But if I kind of blend it out a little bit, it gets a little less harsh. And when I do this, I'm not, because this cloud scene is my focus and not the grass, I'm not drawing in any grass shapes in this one. Sometimes I definitely do that as I'm painting. I love to draw in marsh grass, but because this is so detailed, whenever I have a detailed scene that's in the sky, I never do tons of detail anywhere else, because then it's just distracting from what you're trying to convey. So I'm just making sure to keep the base of those trees super dark and just kind of going over. I added too much highlight. No worries, that's nothing we can't kind of go back and fix. Nothing in oil painting is ever too far gone to be saved. I learned that in one instance, especially whenever I painted a painting. I thought it was going to be so good. I was going to be so proud of it. I finished it and I hated it. And I could not get it right. It was a big sunset painting. And I didn't understand why I couldn't get it right. I worked on it on and off for 3 months. I could not, I was like, this is so bad. And it was really bad. That's not an exaggeration. It was ugly. So I was trying to work on my brightness. All right, hang on, there's an ambulance going by. I had been trying to practice like putting brightness in and doing a bright, but still like kind of moody, bright sunset, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. All right, right now I'm just kind of adding some leftover color on my brush, kind of in these, just to add some darkness as a shadow there. Yeah, I just couldn't get it right, and I couldn't figure out why. And I gave up on it. So I just let it sit on my shelf for months and months. And it was a large painting, so it took up a lot of space. And one day I went to go throw it away. I know, I've never thrown away a painting, but I was like, this is so bad. I hate this. I'm not going to sell this. I'm not even going to show anybody. So I went to go throw it away, and a little bit of it caught my eye, and I realized I had saved up to buy the canvas that it was on. It's been so long since I had purchased the canvas, because I had it for a long time before I even was brave enough to try painting on it, because it was expensive. It was a Belgian linen canvas, which I love using, but they're pricey. So the canvas was like, I don't remember, like $100 or something, which I never really normally spend on canvases, but it has this texture that is so beautiful, and it kind of reminds me of antique paintings. So I thought to myself, like, I cannot throw this away. Like, this was money. I can't throw away money. And I was so frustrated. So I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to give it one more shot. I'm going to just go to town on it and just not give a care in the world, and just really, I'm just going to throw all caution to the wind, basically, and just try and save this canvas. But like, also, it's already too far gone to be saved. In my mind, that's what I was thinking. So I just gave up on it. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to try and paint over it, trying to add to it, just really try and fix it as one last ditch effort to save this expensive canvas. And I worked on it for about, I would say like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it ended up being not only my favorite painting that I've ever done, but also other people's, because people were insane over it. And my friend Carrie was here, and she watched me like start on it, and she was like, wow, you're just really going to town on this, because I was just not giving any cares. I was slapping paint on, I was scrubbing the heck out of stuff, And she was like, wow, you're really just not caring. And she walked back in an hour later and saw what I'd done in that hour. And she was like, oh my God, this is my favorite painting you've ever done. And I agreed. I was like, this is unreal. So you just never know what you're capable of. And just remember, nothing is ever too far gone to be saved. Like that's a good life lesson in addition to painting lessons. I'm tearing up talking about that. Yeah, no one is too far gone to be saved. Just remember that. No paintings, no people. Everyone deserves a second chance, and everyone deserves to have something beautiful come out of trauma and out of negative situations. So, all right, enough of that. I'm just going in and I'm just keep adding just like random lines of that same color of shadow that I have been doing. I'm fading them out just to add some of that like drama in that marsh grass, just to show like it's not just perfect marsh grass. We have some little areas that have separated, some little areas of like little inlets, some little areas of just some darkness. You have to have, one of my favorite quotes by Bob Ross is, you have to have dark to have light. And that's the way it goes. Oh, anyways, back to that painting. So I ended up posting that painting for sale. It was one of my biggest paintings I'd ever done, the sunset one I was telling you guys about. It was also one of my most expensive ones because it was on expensive canvas and it took me so long to do. And I loved it so much, I was like, I'm going to put a higher price on this. And it sold quicker than any painting I've ever had. It sold within 12 hours. And that is just, that's a testament. Like, don't give up. Just don't give up. Okay, so I think I'm going to call this one done. I think that's it. I don't know if you guys can see kind of what we did here. Yep, so that is how I paint storm scenes. Let me know if you guys have any questions, if I can help with anything. I'm going to kind of switch it up between storm scenes and like happier, brighter scenes, just to add a little bit of kind of variation in there. But yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And again, let me know if you have any questions. Bye, guys.